Close your eyes and reconstruct the Earth as it existed 180 million years ago. You are standing on a shoreline, but the geography is unrecognizable. The sand beneath your boots is warm, radiating heat from a sun that shines down on a planet with no ice caps. The air is thick, heavy with humidity, and distinctively heavy in your lungs. Behind you, the forest does not rustle with the familiar leaves of oaks or maples. It is a silent alien wall of conifers, cycads, and ginkgos stretching toward mountains that have long since eroded into dust. In the water before you, a shape surfaces, a neck as long as a telephone pole, topped with a head no larger than a horse's, maneuvering with impossible grace. You are witnessing a biological machine that weighs as much as 10 elephants, a creature that defies the square-cube law of physics simply by existing. This is the Jurassic. To understand this era, you must first calibrate your perception of time. The Jurassic spanned 56 million years, from 201 to 145 million years ago. Consider that the entirety of recorded human history, from the first clay tablets of Mesopotamia to the smartphone in your hand, fits into the last 10,000 years. The Jurassic lasted 5,600 times longer than that. It was an age so vast that species rose, conquered continents, and vanished into extinction without ever overlapping with the dinosaurs you see in movies. It was a deep time laboratory where evolution conducted its most ambitious experiments in size and scale. But the Jurassic did not begin with the majesty of giants. It began with the apocalypse. To understand the rise of the dinosaurs, we must examine the catastrophe that cleared the stage for them, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. 201 million years ago, the supercontinent Pangaea, which had united the world's landmasses for over 100 million years, began to tear itself apart. Deep within the mantle, a massive upwelling of thermal energy pushed against the crust, fracturing the lithosphere along a seam that would eventually become the Atlantic Ocean. This was not a localized volcanic eruption. It was a planetary hemorrhage. The Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, or CAMP, erupted in pulses over roughly 600,000 years. It vomited lava across a region so vast it would cover the continental United States. But the lava was not the primary killer. The true assassin was the gas. These fissures released approximately 100,000 gigatons of carbon dioxide, 50 times more than humans have emitted since the Industrial Revolution. Along with sulfur dioxide and halogens, the atmosphere turned into a chemical weapon. First, the sulfur aerosols reflected sunlight, plunging the world into a volcanic winter. Then, as the haze cleared, the carbon dioxide took over, triggering a hyperthermal greenhouse effect that spiked global temperatures by 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. The oceans acidified, dissolving the shells of marine organisms and collapsing the food web from the bottom up. On land, the dominant reptiles of the Triassic, the pseudosuchians, relatives of crocodiles that ruled the ecosystem, were decimated. They could not adapt to the whipsawing climate, the scorching heat, and the ecological collapse. In the geological blink of an eye, 76% of all species on Earth were deleted. The world that emerged from the smoke of the Triassic was a graveyard, silent and empty. But in the ecological vacuum left by the pseudosuchians, a small, marginalized group of reptiles stepped out of the shadows. The dinosaurs. They had survived the catastrophe not because they were the strongest, but perhaps because they were small, agile, and possibly warm-blooded, traits that allowed them to endure the climate chaos. Now, with their competitors gone, the entire planet was theirs for the taking. This brings us to the early Jurassic, a time of recovery and radical biological innovation. As the climate stabilized into a warm, wet greenhouse state, vegetation exploded, and with this abundance of energy, dinosaurs began to push the physiological limits of terrestrial life. We witnessed the rise of the sauropods, the long-necked titans that would become the largest animals ever to walk the earth. The existence of a creature like Brachiosaurus Diplodocus or Apatosaurus presents a profound bioengineering puzzle. How does an animal grow to 50 tons, stand 4 stories tall, and not collapse under its own weight? How does it pump blood to a head 40 feet in the air? How does it eat enough to fuel such a massive metabolic furnace? The answer lies in a suite of evolutionary adaptations that are as elegant as they are extreme. First, consider the skeleton. If a sauropod's bones were solid like yours or mine, the animal would be too heavy to lift its own body. Instead, evolution engineered a solution. Pneumaticity. Sauropod vertebrae were marvels of lightweight construction, honeycombed with air pockets and hollow struts, similar to the internal structure of a bird's wing. These bones were connected to a complex system of air sacs that permeated the body, reducing the skeleton's mass by up to 60% without sacrificing structural integrity. They were essentially suspension bridges made of bone and air. This air sac system served a dual purpose, solving the second problem: respiration. To power a body of that size, you need oxygen, massive amounts of it. Sauropods inherited a unidirectional respiratory system, the same high-performance lung design found in modern birds. Unlike mammals, who breathe in and out using a tidal system that leaves stale air in the lungs, sauropods had a flow-through system where fresh, oxygenated air moved continuously across the lung surface, both during inhalation and exhalation. This allowed them to extract oxygen with an efficiency that mammals cannot match, fueling their immense growth rates. And they grew with terrifying speed. A sauropod hatchling, emerging from an egg no bigger than a soccer ball, had to increase its body mass by 10,000 times to reach adulthood. To achieve this, they became the ultimate biological harvesters. They did not chew. Chewing requires massive jaw muscles and heavy teeth, which requires a heavy skull. A heavy skull at the end of a 30-foot neck is a biomechanical impossibility. Instead, sauropods evolved simple, peg-like teeth for stripping vegetation. They swallowed leaves whole, letting their massive fermentation vat stomachs and ingested stones, or gastroliths, do the work of breaking down the tough conifers and cycads. This strip-and-swallow technique allowed them to ingest hundreds of kilograms of food a day without pausing to masticate. The long neck itself was the ultimate energy-saving device. By standing in one spot and sweeping that neck across a vast arc, a sauropod could graze a massive area of the forest canopy without taking a single step. They were energy-efficient giants, harvesting the solar power stored in Jurassic plants and converting it into tons of flesh and bone. By the Middle Jurassic, these animals had transformed from survivors into the undisputed architects of their ecosystem. They were not just inhabitants of the world, they were geological forces, moving nutrients across continents, toppling trees, and shaping the forests themselves. But as these herbivores grew into living fortresses, the predators that hunted them were forced to evolve in kind. The arms race of the Jurassic was about to begin, and the shadows of the forests were filling with teeth designed to pierce the hides of giants. The catastrophe of the Triassic was forgotten. The age of Titans had arrived. Abundance inevitably invites destruction. In the biological calculus of the Jurassic, the colossal biomass of the sauropods represented an unprecedented energy source. Thermodynamics dictates that where there is energy, something will evolve to consume it. Thus, the Middle and Late Jurassic became the stage for the most sophisticated evolutionary arms race in Earth's history. This was not a passive garden of giants. It was a theater of war where every biological innovation in defense was met with a counter-innovation in offense. The architects of this terror were the theropods. By the Late Jurassic, the lineage of bipedal carnivores had refined itself into the perfect hunting machine. Allosaurus **. While not as massive as the later Tyrannosaurus rex Allosaurus * was arguably more successful, serving as the definitive apex predator of its age. An adult male might measure 9 meters in length and weigh 2 tons, a sleek biological blade compared to the tank-like build of later predators. The engineering of the Allosaurus * skull reveals a terrifying method of killing. Unlike the bone-crushing jaws of the Cretaceous tyrannosaurs, Allosaurus * possessed a lighter, more flexible skull. Its jaw could open to a horrific 90-degree angle. And paleontologists have analyzed the stress points on the skull and proposed the hatchet jaw hypothesis. The animal likely did not kill by bite pressure alone. Instead, it used its upper jaw like a serrated axe, driving its teeth into prey with the massive musculature of its neck. It was a surgical strike designed to induce massive hemorrhage, allowing the predator to step back and wait for its victim to weaken from blood loss. The fossil record provides chilling snapshots of these interactions. In the Morrison Formation of North America, we find the predator traps, sites like the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry, where dozens of Allosaurus * skeletons are piled together. Whether this represents pack behavior or a catastrophic accumulation of solitary hunters drawn to dying prey remains a subject of fierce debate. But the sheer density of these fossils tells us that Allosaurus * was the dominant force of the landscape, the wolf of the Jurassic. But the herbivores were not passive victims. Evolution rarely leaves a prey species defenseless, and in the Jurassic, defense took on a spectacular architectural form. Enter Stegosaurus asterisk. This animal is an icon of prehistory, instantly recognizable by the double row of kite-shaped plates along its back and the lethal cluster of spikes at the end of its tail. For decades, Stegosaurus asterisk was mocked as an evolutionary failure, the poster child for the slow and stupid dinosaur myth, purportedly possessing a brain the size of a walnut. While its brain-to-body ratio was indeed low, this creature was a highly successful survivor that outlasted millions of years of predation. The second brain in its hips was a myth. It was merely an enlargement of the spinal cord to manage the motor functions of its massive hindquarters. Stegosaurus. Asterisk did not need to solve calculus. It needed to survive Allosaurus asterisk. The plates along its back likely served a dual purpose, thermoregulation and display. Filled with blood vessels, they could flush with color to intimidate rivals or attract mates, while also acting as organic radiators to dump heat in the Jurassic sun. But the true genius of Stegosaurus asterisk was the thagomizer, the 4 spikes at the end of its powerful, flexible tail. This was not a display structure. It was a weapon of war. We have direct fossilized proof of its effectiveness. An Allosaurus asterisk tail vertebra found with a puncture wound that perfectly matches the geometry of a Stegosaurus asterisk spike. The bone shows signs of healing, meaning the predator survived, but the encounter was violent and nearly fatal. This is forensics from 150 million years ago, a frozen moment of violence where the herbivore fought back and won. Not all defense relied on armor. The ornithopods, dinosaurs like Camptosaurus asterisk and Dryosaurus asterisk, adopted a different strategy: speed and vigilance. These were the antelopes of the Mesozoic, relying on social cohesion and rapid acceleration. They possessed beak-like mouths for cropping vegetation and more complex chewing mechanisms than the sauropods, allowing them to process food more efficiently. By living in herds, they created a collective sensory network, thousands of eyes scanning for the shadow of a theropod. In the evolutionary arms race, running away is often the most effective survival strategy of all. However, the war for survival was not limited to the continents. While dinosaurs conquered the land, a completely different lineage of reptiles had returned to the sea, evolving into monsters that make modern marine predators look like minnows. The transition from land to sea requires a fundamental reorganization of biology. Limbs must become flippers, bones must change density for buoyancy, and senses must adapt to a world of crushing pressure and filtered light. The ichthyosaurs were the first masters of this domain. By the Jurassic, they had evolved a body plan strikingly convergent with modern dolphins, though they were reptiles, not mammals. They birthed live young and possessed the largest eyes in the history of the animal kingdom. Ophthalmosaurus asterisk had eyes the size of dinner plates, surrounded by a ring of bone called the sclerotic ring to prevent the eyeball from collapsing under pressure. This adaptation suggests they were deep-sea hunters, diving into the aphotic zone where sunlight does not penetrate, hunting squid in the crushing darkness using vision sensitive enough to detect the faintest bioluminescence. Sharing these waters were the plesiosaurs, creatures that looked like a snake threaded through the body of a turtle. They propelled themselves with 4 wing-like flippers, a method of underwater flight that has no modern equivalent. Their long necks allowed them to ambush schools of fish, snapping sideways before the prey detected the massive body looming behind. But at the apex of the marine food web sat the pliosaurs. These were the true nightmares of the Jurassic Ocean. Animals like Pliosaurus, and Liopleurodon. Abandoned the long necks of their cousins in favor of massive crocodile-like skulls that could reach 2 meters in length. These were the T-Rexes of the deep, but arguably more terrifying. Their bite force was strong enough to crush a car. They hunted anything they wanted. Ichthyosaurs, long-necked plesiosaurs, and perhaps even dinosaurs foolish enough to venture too close to the water's edge. The ocean of the Jurassic was a dangerous, hyper-competitive environment. There were no safe harbors. In the shallow lagoons of Europe, preserved today in the Solnhofen limestone, we see the delicate balance of this marine world. We find horseshoe crabs that look identical to those today, proving that some designs are perfect enough to last forever. We find squids and ammonites, the bread and butter of the marine food web, and we find the predators that kept the system in check. This era proves that nature is not static. It is a dynamic, violent engine of optimization. The arms race is not a metaphor. It is the mechanism by which life improves itself. The heavy armor of the Stegosaurus forced the Allosaurus to become faster and smarter. The speed of the ichthyosaurs forced the pliosaurs to become more powerful. Every adaptation is a response to a threat, and every threat is a response to an adaptation. As the Jurassic progressed, these evolutionary lines were drawn in blood and bone. The terrestrial and marine ecosystems had reached a level of complexity and lethality that the Earth had never seen before. But while the giants battled on land and the monsters ruled the deep, two other revolutions were quietly taking place, one in the night sky and one in the dirt beneath the feet of the titans. The conquest of the air and the survival of the underdog were about to reshape the future of the planet. While the ground trembled under the rhythmic impact of titans and the oceans churned with the violence of leviathans, a quieter, more delicate revolution was taking place overhead. The conquest of the sky is one of the most difficult challenges in the history of biology. Gravity is a relentless adversary, and to defy it requires a radical reorganization of anatomy, metabolism, and physics. In the Jurassic, two distinct lineages met this challenge head-on, engaging in an aerial duel for supremacy that would last millions of years and shape the future of terrestrial life. First came the pterosaurs. These were not dinosaurs, but close cousins on the archosaur family tree, and they were the first vertebrates to unlock the physics of powered flight, beating birds to the sky by tens of millions of years. Their solution to the problem of lift was elegant and bizarre. A membrane of skin, muscle, and blood vessels stretched from an enormously elongated fourth finger to their ankles. This wing, the patagium, was not a passive kite or a simple flap of skin. It was a dynamic living organ, threaded with stiffening fibers called actinofibrils that allowed the animal to adjust the camber and tension of the wing in midair, granting them mastery over aerodynamics. In the Jurassic skies, pterosaurs like Rhamphorhynchus and Pterodactylus filled every available aerial niche. Rhamphorhynchus was a creature of precision, possessing a long, stiff tail ending in a diamond-shaped vein that acted as a rudder. It skimmed the surfaces of tropical lagoons, snatching fish with needle-like teeth that interlocked to form an inescapable cage. Pterodactylus representing a newer short-tailed lineage, abandoned the rudder for greater agility and a larger head, signaling the future of pterosaur evolution. Their bones were hollow, their bodies covered in hair-like pycnofibers, proving they were warm-blooded engines of metabolism. For millions of years, they were the undisputed lords of the air, casting their shadows over the dinosaurs below. But they were not alone. In the undergrowth, a group of small feathered theropod dinosaurs was conducting a dangerous evolutionary experiment. Evolution does not aim for flight, it stumbles upon it. More feathers likely evolved first for insulation or display, keeping these small active predators warm in the cool Jurassic nights. But over time, the feathers lengthened, the arms elongated, and the wrists became flexible, allowing for a motion that would eventually become the flight stroke. In the fine-grained limestone quarries of Solnhofen, Germany, we find the smoking gun of this transition, Archaeopteryx *, discovered just 2 years after Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species *. This fossil remains arguably the most important single specimen in the history of science. It is the perfect chimera, a biological mosaic that bridges two worlds. It possesses the teeth, the long bony tail, and the killing claws of a reptile, yet it bears the asymmetrical flight feathers and the wishbone of a bird. It captures a lineage caught in the act of becoming something else. Archaeopteryx * was not a graceful flyer like a modern falcon. It likely fluttered and glided, a burst-powered chaotic flyer. But it proved that the monopoly of the pterosaurs was broken. The dinosaurs had taken to the sky, and they would never leave it. Every sparrow, eagle, and hummingbird you see today is a direct descendant of this Jurassic innovation. While the battle for the sky raged, another struggle was playing out in the dark. In the literal shadow of the dinosaurs scuttling through the fern litter and burrowing into the soil were the mammals. These were our ancestors. In the Jurassic, mammals were small, rarely larger than a squirrel or a house cat. They were forced into a nocturnal existence, a dark niche where they could avoid the visual hunting dominance of the dinosaurs. But this marginalization was a blessing in disguise. To survive the night, mammals had to evolve biological superpowers. They developed acute hearing, evolving a complex three-bone middle ear structure, the malleus, incus, and stapes, repurposed from reptilian jaw bones to detect the faintest sounds of insects or approaching predators. They developed a keen sense of smell to navigate a world without light. They developed fur for insulation and, crucially, endothermy, warm-bloodedness, to maintain high activity levels when the sun went down, and the reptiles became sluggish. They became the ultimate survivors, small, adaptable, and invisible. While the dinosaurs bet everything on size and brute power, mammals bet on efficiency, sensory acuity, and stealth. It was a wager that would not pay off for another 100 million years, but when the asteroid eventually struck, it was the small, burrowing generalists who inherited the ashes of the world. As the Jurassic drew to a close, around 145 million years ago, the world began to change again. The transition to the Cretaceous period was not marked by a single cataclysm, but by a slow, grinding shift in the planet's operating system. The supercontinent Pangaea continued its inexorable fragmentation. The Atlantic Ocean widened, pushing the Americas away from Europe and Africa, tearing the world apart at the seams. This breakup altered ocean currents and global climate patterns, creating a more fragmented world with distinct regional ecosystems. The flora began to shift. The gymnosperms, the conifers and cycads that had fed the sauropods for millions of years, faced a new competitor, the angiosperms, or flowering plants. Though still rare in the late Jurassic, these plants would soon explode in diversity, rewriting the rules of herbivory and triggering new coevolutionary pathways for insects and dinosaurs alike. The great sauropod lineages of the Jurassic, the Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus would fade from the northern continents, replaced by different groups in the Cretaceous. The Stegosaurus would vanish, its plated armor proving obsolete against new threats, replaced by the tank-like ankylosaurs. The Allosaurus the wolf of the Jurassic, would give way to the tyrannosaurs, the bone crushers of the future. The biological turnover was gradual but absolute. The Jurassic was a golden age of giants, a period of stability and extravagance that allowed life to push the boundaries of what was biologically possible. It proved that the Earth is capable of supporting ecosystems of terrifying scale and complexity. It showed us that dominance is temporary, that every empire falls, and that survival often depends on the traits we least value: being small, being hidden, being adaptable. You will never visit the Jurassic. No time machine will take you back to walk the warm sands of that ancient shoreline or to hear the low-frequency rumble of a migrating sauropod herd, a sound so deep it would vibrate in your chest rather than your ears. But the Jurassic is not gone. It is written in the stone of the Morrison Formation. It is encoded in the DNA of the birds outside your window. It is present in the coal that powers your cities and the geography of the continents you live on. The atoms in your body have cycled through this deep time. The carbon in your cells may once have been part of a fern crushed under the foot of a Brachiosaurus or part of the breath of an Allosaurus hunting in the rain. We are connected to this past by the unbroken chain of life, a resilience that has survived ice ages, volcanic apocalypses, and asteroid impacts. So, as you sleep tonight, remember the world that was. Remember the shadows of giants moving through forests that no longer exist. Remember the first clumsy flap of a feathered wing that would eventually conquer the sky. The Jurassic is over, but its legacy is the foundation of the living world. Good night, traveler of deep time. The past is never truly dead. It is simply waiting to be remembered.